Spice Tree Apartments versus Haley Salisbury.
This case launches with a tangle of grief, broken trust, procedural confusion, and a young woman whose life has been shattered by events no one should ever endure. Before we even step into the legal arguments, understand this. Every single person on this Zoom call carries a story heavy enough to bend the walls of the courtroom. Judge Simpson is about to face not just unpaid rent, not just a disputed lease, but two young people at the edge of their emotional limits. One recovering from a tragic loss just 6 weeks earlier, and the other fighting through the aftermath of a quadruple homicide that obliterated her family and stability. And layered on top of all that heavy trauma, a lease agreement neither fully understood and a property management company that may have pushed paperwork faster than they ensured clarity. This is where emotional devastation collides with legal obligation. We're watching a case where the core question isn't simply who owes money, it's whether the system has the capacity to treat wounded people with humanity while still enforcing the law. As this unfolds, notice the cracks forming in the narrative. Why was Gavin added to a lease despite allegedly never applying? Why did Haley believe an assurance that contradicted the legal text? How much responsibility does a vulnerable tenant bear when her entire support system has collapsed? And how will Judge Simpson, one of the most emotionally intuitive judges in Michigan, untangle the truth from the trauma? This one isn't just a housing case. It's a collision of grief, desperation, legal oversight, and overdue clarity. Watch closely, because every word spoken in the next few minutes reshapes the path to the final ruling.
He's here. And also Gavin, is it Wesleyan? Wesley?
Well, it's
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Okay. Oh, they're in like 8 different screens. Okay, yeah. That's good on my eyes for this time of day. All right, where are we on this case?
Your Honor, this was adjourned 1 week. Ms. Salisbury indicated that, I think Mr. Wellesley as well, that they were trying to seek legal counsel. Total due at present with court costs $4,735.32.
All right, folks, where are you on this?
I guess I'll go first, Your Honor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I want to start out by explaining that I requested the adjournment to retain an attorney, but I wasn't able to secure one within the week. We were calling attorneys that specialize with lease evictions, but nobody had the time to help. I would like to state that me and Haley have not been together since April due to relationship issues, and that's one of the reasons why my mom is involved. She's on the screen with her. She's done most of the talking between Haley and I. She's also communicated with Spice Tree Apartments. I lost my father in a tragic way on August 12th, so I haven't had the best headspace to do this on my own, and that's another reason why she's here. But to get things started, I guess for me, I'd already moved into an employee house free of rent and utilities in Ann Arbor on March 22nd. Before Haley moved into her apartment on April 14th, she asked if I could help her by signing some documents on her behalf. When I inquired about what my involvement would be, since I wasn't going to be living there at this time, she wrote me a text explaining that the manager had told her, saying that I wasn't going to be held responsible for anything. It was all just a workaround to help her get into the apartment. With everything Haley has been through, I decided to sign the lease info because I did not want her to be homeless, and her staying at the employee house obviously wasn't an option. I never filled out an application with my info. All I got was an email of an e-signature file of the lease, and this made me believe what Haley said was to be true, so I signed the lease not knowing I was signing to be a resident.
This is the pivotal turning point in Gavin's narrative. His entire legal position hinges on this single moment. He believed he was signing a non-obligating document to help someone in crisis. But legally, the court must determine what the paperwork actually was, not what he assumed it to be. Michigan landlord-tenant law is unforgiving here. The signature binds you unless fraud, coercion, or procedural violations can be proven. Now, take note of the emotional undertone. Gavin didn't just sign out of convenience, he signed because Haley, who had already endured catastrophic trauma, needed help finding stability. This is where morality and legality diverge. Morally, he acted compassionately. Legally, compassion won't erase $4,473 owed. What Judge Simpson is likely processing here is whether the property management company misrepresented anything. Did they correctly explain tenant responsibilities? Did they verify resident status properly? If the manager truly told Haley that Gavin wouldn't be responsible, that becomes a material miscommunication. But without written proof, courts rarely overturn lease obligations.
Okay. All right. And what do you folks, Haley, what do you want to tell me?
I also have a thing I can read. So Your Honor, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I would like to explain my situation and how it led us here. I was approved for the lease based on a combination of my survivor benefits and Gavin's income. I was not in Ann Arbor yet because I was waiting to start a job here. I didn't start the job yet. He clarified on the phone that he wasn't going to move in at the time, but they still put him on. Yeah. And do.
I would explain this part right here.
And then the rent hasn't been paid because I don't have the survivor's benefits anymore. They canceled it in June. And then I was in
Haley, hold on, stop for a moment.
Haley's explanation begins unraveling a deeper layer of this case. She was approved based on her survivor benefits and Gavin's income, painting the picture of a young woman who was clinging to the last threads of financial stability. But when she reveals that her benefits were suddenly canceled in June, everything snaps into perspective. Survivor benefits typically end at age 18 unless you're still in high school, or at 19 in some cases. She believed they extended to 21, a misunderstanding with devastating consequences. Here's what the audience needs to recognize. Losing benefits mid-lease is not something courts can fix. The lease doesn't dissolve simply because income sources vanish, but it does help explain why the rent spiraled unpaid. This moment is also where Judge Simpson steps in sharply, asking what kind of benefits she received and whether she lost a parent. When she answers, "Yeah, both of them, and my siblings," the courtroom atmosphere shifts. This isn't just financial hardship, it's unimaginable trauma paired with the crushing weight of adult responsibilities she was never prepared for.
What kind of survivor's benefits did you have?
I don't know exactly. It was just like SER.
Did you lose a parent?
Yeah, both of them.
And your siblings.
You lost both parents. Okay. And
I'm sorry,
in June, did you turn 21?
No, 20. Or no, April I turned 20.
April, you turned 20. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was until I was 21, but I guess it's not. So that's why we're in this hole.
All right. Go ahead, ma'am. You want to tell me something?
I really do, Your Honor. I want to let her finish, but I also know she's very prideful. And this isn't a dispute, to be clear, about Gavin and Haley like against each other. But if I could read my portion, because I think you really do need to understand something incredibly crucial to the context of this. And then also some procedural errors that I have personally been involved with since June 19th that I think you want to be aware of.
Enter Gavin's mother, and the emotional dam bursts. Her statement shifts the entire case from a simple eviction hearing into a raw, agonizing portrait of two young adults navigating trauma far beyond their capacity. She reveals the unthinkable. Haley didn't just lose her parents. She lost 3 baby siblings in a quadruple homicide committed by her stepfather. That kind of trauma fundamentally disrupts a person's ability to make rational long-term decisions, manage finances, or even maintain stable housing. The legal system wasn't designed for tragedies of this magnitude. Courts can enforce leases, remove tenants, and order payments, but they cannot repair a life gutted by violence. Gavin's mom also highlights procedural inconsistencies, missing responses from the apartment, delayed summons, incorrect communications, and a lack of due diligence verifying Gavin as a tenant. These issues matter legally. If the landlord mishandled notices or failed proper intake procedures, it could weaken their claim for the full amount or complicate enforcement. She is also painfully honest about Gavin's emotional limitations. He's grieving, not a strong reader, and acted out of naive goodwill. These details matter because they help the judge understand why things unraveled.
So I'm Andrea. I'm Gavin's mother. I've been helping Haley and Gavin navigate this situation, and I do want to clarify from the start, like Gavin did, that they're not dating and they haven't been in a relationship since April. I took on this role as a mentor and advocate to support Haley the past 2 years. I will get into that, and I know she feels uncomfortable with this, but even I'm frustrated and not sure how much more I have in my tank to help, and this young lady needs some help and guidance in this. 2 years ago, not only did she lose both her parents, she also lost her 3 baby siblings because her stepdad murdered everyone. It was a quadruple homicide. And I am mentioning this to you because though she was technically 18, and this is why I'm in her court, because this is all trickling down to today, and I'm not trying to just do the sympathy piece, but I need someone to understand this girl hasn't been guided. Because she was 18, she unfortunately, didn't have the assistance of anything else, but she was in that home and instantly became homeless because her home was a crime scene. And I didn't even know she was without a home already for 9 months at that point. Her and my son had been dating on and off. And once I discovered that, that's when I stepped in because she has literally no mother, no father. All of her siblings are gone except for her 2 younger surviving siblings. And this has been a lot. Now I'm going to cry because she never cries. So I know she owes the rent. She knows she owes the rent. We're not disputing that. But in addition to that, I want you to know that's why my son helped in the way he did in signing this. And he truly, from what I'll show you in the evidence if you need, he did not know he was signing a lease. He simply thought, because he's very naive, and he also should probably tell you he is not a reader. And he thought he was helping her out truly. And they split up in April. So, and he lived in an employee house. And that just further reiterates that there were some procedural errors and that the apartment complex did not do their due diligence in ensuring that Gavin was not a resident. He never sat there. He never met with them. And my request is not that the money isn't owed, but my request is after you hear all of this that had happened, that not only that both Haley and Gavin's names are removed from the lease, and that, let me tell you the rest. Thank you for being patient, by the way. Because of these personal losses, and what my son didn't tell you is the way he just lost his dad just 6 weeks ago was incredibly tragic. And so he's also got that currently going on. And she hasn't even begun to be able to process this grief because for 2 years, we've been working to get her some housing. We're in her apartment with no furniture at this moment. She's had nothing here this whole time. And we've been waiting for assistance by waiting for a court summons so she could get on her feet because she did have a job lined up. But now we're this far behind because nothing was served
Because they didn't.
until the dates I have. I have a timeline laid out for you, by the way. If you do want it, we have it on Zoom. It has a lot of dates that I have all receipts of all my emails with them, never getting a return email, never getting any answers on the phone. Not only that, they withheld information from Gavin on September 3rd when James called my son back, because that's also the day they filed this court summons and no one ever told my son that. And then the very last thing I want to say is that our request is not to not have the amount owed, although I do wish we had some way to work around some of this, but to have them both removed from the lease because it's demonstrated, and she had just moved in. He's never been in here. That this young lady's not going to be able to pay. And I don't want this affecting her for the rest of her life when she's already so upside down and has had no guidance other than myself with this. And that's the facts. And unfortunately, without burdening you with my problems, my life turned upside down and I am in absolutely no position to help like I otherwise would. And if that was the case, neither of them would be here today if I could help, but I can't. And so I'm hoping that sums everything up because I kind of went off script. And then if you want anything else, we have a lot of information for you. But I wanted you to know with the context with her because she's not going to share that with you on her own.
This moment highlights one of the most challenging realities of trauma-infused cases. Survivors often underexplain their circumstances out of shame, pride, or emotional exhaustion. Haley's silence isn't defiance, it's self-protection. Gavin's mother understands that, and Judge Simpson begins to recognize it too. Haley has endured years of instability. She lost her entire family, became homeless, bounced through temporary support systems, tried to secure housing while emotionally fractured, and now sits alone on Zoom defending herself in a legal process built for people with far more resources than she has. Her hesitation isn't suspicious, it's symptomatic of survival mode. This is also where the legal and human components intersect sharply. Courts encourage direct statements from tenants, but trauma survivors often shut down in formal settings. Meanwhile, the lease obligations still exist regardless of emotional readiness. Judge Simpson needs enough information to determine whether the eviction process was executed properly and whether any alternative resolutions, such as dismissal, payment plans, or termination of lease obligations, may be reasonable.
All right. Okay. Okay, Haley,
Mhm.
you're right now, is that your apartment at Spice Tree right now that I'm looking
Yeah.
at behind you?
Yeah.
Okay. So Haley, let me ask you this. As I sort of synthesize this whole thing, are you going to be able to move someplace, or you just don't have anywhere to go? All right,
So
young lady, let me tell you something. Okay. Because I heard Gavin's mom say you have a lot of pride, right? Okay, is that right?
sure.
Okay, so listen, here's what you got to do. I'm just sort of a plain talking guy, okay?
Mhm.
And so sometimes to try to work some of these things out, you got to kind of set aside your pride, okay? Sometimes, and sometimes things don't work out, but sometimes things do work out, but they can only work out if there are people in a position maybe that can help. Can't do everything, but you got to kind of know what's going on with you, okay? So if it's going to be a circumstance where you're going to be homeless, you got to tell me that.
Not maybe for a minute.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, honey, it's okay.
Haley, talk to me. All right.
Well, I just I would rather just not have to keep going through with this, like the
Okay.
rent April. So
All right.
I could find somewhere. Because
Okay,
like
now hold.
I wanted to do it all on my own. So
This part of the hearing exposes a painful truth. Haley is exhausted. When she says she would rather not keep going through with this and just wants to find somewhere she can handle things on her own, it isn't resignation, it's emotional collapse. Trauma often manifests as wanting distance from anything stressful, even if that distance leads to more hardship. Judge Simpson reads the subtext immediately. His response isn't legal, it's paternal, grounding, and deeply human. He sees a young woman who has spent years in survival mode, who has learned that relying on anyone leads to more pain, and who is now at the brink of shutting down. His advice about setting aside pride isn't a lecture, it's a lifeline. But here's the legal significance viewers should note. If Haley voluntarily relinquishes the apartment, the court can resolve the eviction faster. It also means the landlord can reclaim possession without a physical removal. But it does not erase the existing debt. Many tenants misunderstand this. Even if she leaves today, the $4,473 balance remains. Judge Simpson knows this. He is trying to help her face the reality without crushing her emotionally. He's also trying to ensure she doesn't end up homeless while the court sorts out the paperwork.
All right. Okay. So Haley Love. Gavin, how old are you, buddy?
I'm 21.
All right. Now, certainly, Haley, not through the circumstances, probably not through the circumstances of either one of you that you guys have been through. let me just tell you, you're talking to somebody who, losing parents is hard, right? We know it's going to happen. At least if things happen in the orderly way, that's going to happen. But we never expect it. Okay. So I usually don't share things about myself, but so that you can understand that at least to a certain extent, I can kind of understand the uncertainty of where you guys are.
Mhm.
All right. Understand, I lost my dad when I was 16. So I can particularly appreciate, Gavin, when you say you're not in a good headspace. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. And, Haley, I can't even, I can't even wrap my head around that. Okay. But the one thing I can tell you both, life doesn't end. You find a way to make it through. Haley, for you, sometimes when I'm telling you to set aside your pride, sometimes you got to set aside your pride. Sometimes you're just not that strong, and it's okay. Okay? Because somewhere out there, while the world doesn't seem like it's a great place sometimes, I believe in the goodness of people. And so sometimes when you let that down and people can see it and you just sort of lay it bare, I got to believe, and I just do believe that there are people around that kind of help you out. Okay. And you just can't, Haley, you don't have any reason to have any faith in humanity. You just don't. And I'm not going to try to tell you that you do. All right. But slowly but surely, maybe you'll begin to see it. Okay. It'll come back at some point.
This is one of the most powerful emotional anchors in the entire hearing. Judge Simpson steps out from behind the bench, not literally, but emotionally, and shares something rare: his own loss. Judges typically avoid personal disclosures, but when he reveals he lost his father at 16, he gives Gavin and Haley something they desperately needed in that moment: proof that he sees them not as case numbers, but as human beings grappling with real pain. Legally, this doesn't change the facts. The debt remains, the lease remains, and eviction procedures must continue. But emotionally, it shifts the tone of the entire case. Haley is someone who has lost everything. Gavin is someone who just buried his father 6 weeks ago. Simpson is showing them that the courtroom isn't an enemy, it's a structure trying to guide them through chaos. Pay attention to how he transitions from empathy to motivation. He tells Haley life doesn't end and that sometimes the world's goodness returns slowly. This isn't just comfort, it is strategic. Judges want clarity from litigants. When someone is emotionally frozen, they cannot make practical decisions about housing, finances, or next steps. His goal is to help her articulate her situation honestly so he can rule effectively.
Okay. But more importantly, you got to give yourself space and time to heal and time to move on. And there's no recipe for it. And you're going to come across a lot of these bumps. And what I don't want you, it's one thing to give up on an apartment. It's a whole other thing to just give up on life. And the latter of that, I don't want to see. Okay. So, Haley, if you don't have the apartment, where do you think you're going to go? You got a place?
I have a place that I can go to. Yeah.
Okay. For how long?
For a few months until I can get it figured out.
You know what, Your Honor, if I may, I only want to
Yes.
say, I think she would share more with you, and I don't know if you have if you're able to do this or not. I know because her and Gavin haven't been dating since August or April, I'm sorry, that she would probably share more with you if she wasn't in this situation. And I'm not asking you to make accommodations, but I do feel like that's where the hesitation's from. I don't know if he can be removed so she could share you more during this or not.
Well, let me do this.
Okay.
Let me do this. Haley, really, bottom line is between you and Gavin, you don't have the money to pay for this apartment, right?
Mm-mm.
You have the potential ability to go someplace. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do, Haley.
Here we see Judge Simpson transition from counselor to decision maker. After gathering emotional context and verifying occupancy, he shifts to procedural action, adjourning the case to October 4th. This decision is far more strategic than it appears. By delaying the hearing, he accomplishes several legal and humanitarian goals simultaneously. He gives Haley time to secure alternative housing. If she's already planning to relocate within months, an adjournment gives her breathing room rather than forcing an immediate displacement. He allows the plaintiff the forward momentum they need. Landlords must follow strict timelines. This adjournment satisfies procedural requirements without shutting down the plaintiff's rights. He creates space for private disclosures. His request for a breakout session with Haley and Gavin's mother signals he believes there is sensitive information that could reshape how this case is resolved. He avoids rushing a ruling in a case shaped by trauma. Immediate decisions in emotionally charged matters often lead to poor outcomes. Notice how Gavin mentions his father's service on the 5th. Simpson doesn't dismiss it. He acknowledges it, expresses understanding, but explains that the legal machinery must continue. This is a key example of judicial balancing, compassion without compromising procedural integrity.
Mr. Andres, I'm going to adjourn this out to October 4th, 2024 over plaintiff's objection. What time?
12 p.m.
At 12 p.m. Okay,
Sir, could I say one thing though? I'm sorry.
go ahead.
My dad's service is on the 5th, and they live down by Flint, and I was planning on being there for the 4th and the 5th. So I don't know. We could reschedule
Well,
a different day.
Well, I'm going to leave it to the 4th because I think things have to get resolved for the plaintiff. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave it that date. If you're not here, I certainly understand that, and we'll work around that some way, but you're not in the apartment in any event. So
yeah,
that may not be an issue. Okay. So that's what I'm going to do. Ms. Dornbush, I'm going to ask you a favor of you. If you don't mind, if I ask Haley to wait till the end of the proceeding, do you mind if I have a private communication with her and Gavin's mom regarding the circumstances in this case? I would never, of course, do anything detrimental to your client in that conversation, but just trying to figure out what we can do with this so some folks can land softly. You're muted.
Sorry, Judge, I was verifying those other payments. And I'm not entirely sure what to say, because obviously the news, the information that's been shared here today is frankly devastating. So at the same time, I do have job to do, and I have to advocate for my client, and I know the court recognizes that. I would say that if during that discussion information comes to light that would otherwise affect my client's legal rights, that information needs to be shared with me. Because
absolutely,
I do have an ethical duty to my client, but at the same time, I understand the circumstances and frankly, what Miss Salisbury has been dealing with. I have no way to understand that. but I know that there's information that the court would like to hear that she would like to share. And I understand the need to do that privately. So, you know, if something comes up that is going to affect my client's legal rights, I have to request that that information be shared with me, whether it's in a written statement or if it's something that the court discloses. And
And Ms. Dornbush, Ms. Dornbush, I would give you my word that if that were the case, and I would also apprise her that I would have to share that with you, so there wouldn't be any surprise on anybody's part. But I have a feeling there's something, yeah, so if you don't mind, I think I will do that, and let's see where we can go and try to get this resolved, hopefully next week with this, but I think there's something that has to happen in the interim. Okay. So I'll adjourn it out a week. Haley, wait on the line. You and Gavin's mom are gonna go into a private breakout with me as soon as I get finished with these few cases that I got here, okay?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
As the hearing closes, the final structure becomes clear. Judge Simpson isn't just handling a typical eviction. He is managing a convergence of miscommunication, procedural uncertainty, and staggering personal tragedy. Haley entered a lease based on income that was later canceled, while navigating grief no person her age should ever carry. Gavin signed documents he believed were symbolic, not binding, while barely coping with the loss of his father. Their emotional instability did not absolve them of legal responsibility, but it absolutely shaped how the judge approached the case. By adjourning the matter and requesting a private discussion, Simpson signaled that this case required nuance beyond what a standard on-record hearing could provide. His goal appears to be guiding both parties toward a resolution that honors landlord rights while protecting emotionally vulnerable tenants from catastrophic fallout. The legal issues remain: unpaid rent, unclear tenant onboarding procedures, and the question of whether both names should remain on the lease. But the human issues, trauma, grief, homelessness risk, and the desperate need for stability will heavily influence how the court steers the remaining steps. This case highlights the delicate edge where law meets humanity. It's a reminder that behind every eviction case is a complex story courts must navigate with both firmness and compassion. If you found this case as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns.